Hello and welcome to How to Be a Money Magpie podcast. I'm money expert Jasmine Birtles, the founder of MoneyMagpie.com. And in this, the 6th episode of our new podcast series on how to be a money magpie, we're continuing our quest to find more of the many ways you can be clever with money without even trying. As you know, if you've been listening to our other episodes, we believe in making money as well as saving it, finding really fun and interesting ways of building up reserves of cash, as well as being clever and thoughtful in spending it. We're also big believers in sharing the money we have. As I like to say to anyone who'll listen, money is like manure. It only does good if you spread it around. Otherwise, it's just a stinking pile of mess. And today we're looking at ideas for cheap and nutritious meals, how to save money around the house, and going back to the old ways of running our homes and our lives that will save us money and help the planet. And we thought, who could tell us more about that? Of course, we thought of the wonderful Nancy Birtwhistle, who's the winner of the Great British Bake Off back in 2014. Hello, Nancy. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Jasmine. Lovely to talk to you.
Oh, it's just great to have you on because I know that you are a wealth of information on, how to be just clever with just not just with your money, but with your things using traditional ideas. But first, I just wanted to ask you, about Bake Off and how it's changed your life. Because you've been parachuted into a different world. You've been involved in all sorts of things like demonstrating, teaching. You've even had your first stage acting role. Tell me all about that.
I entered Bake Off, as I'm sure lots of bakers do, because they sit as a viewer at home in their armchair thinking, do you know what? I think I could do that. And but you don't actually appreciate that there's a camera sticking in your face. You're in a tent. You're not in a kitchen. And there's time constraints. And obviously, when you're baking at home, there are not those pressures. And so it's a completely different way of working. But it's fun and it was great and probably one of the best things I've ever done. And a life-changing thing because I couldn't wait to retire. I'd had a long career spanning over 30 years in the health service. And I just couldn't wait for some time to do the things that I thought I wanted to do. But then after 6 months, I realised that it wasn't time for me to retire because I didn't enjoy it at all. And so it was about looking for different things to do, but things that seemed worthwhile. And I quite like drawing and painting and that sort of thing. But there's only so many pictures you can put on the wall that are worthy. And whereas food and creating things, whether it be sewing or knitting or gardening or baking or cooking, those things I think for me seemed worthwhile because there's an end result, you're benefiting from it. And so I sort of got better at baking. And then Bake Off, I didn't start watching it until series 3. And I really loved it. And it's inspirational because I can remember doing Mary's chocolate tea cakes. And I sent for the moulds and everything because I wanted to have a go at Mary's chocolate tea cakes. And and then I thought, well, I'll apply for it. And there you go.
Marvellous. So actually winning it, did that basically catapult you into stardom, as it were? Everybody wanting a piece of you?
To begin with, yes. I mean, I'd gone from being a very sort of insignificant person to being recognised everywhere I went. And I can remember getting off the tube at King's Cross and people stopping me wanting selfies. And I just thought, this whole thing is bizarre. But of course, that's very in the moment. And after a year, obviously the next winner comes out. And, you're always a winner. And people will always want information on things or recipes on things or little articles and that sort of thing. So it's been and continues to be fantastic.
Well, yeah, and hence you being here, because we want stuff off you. We want to know. I mean, let's start, for example, with some ideas for cheap and nutritious meals, because this is what everybody's looking for, really. How do you feed the family on a £5 a day or less?
And I mean, that was very much part of how I brought up a family back in the 1970s, because I was really quite hard up. And so if it's been your lifestyle, I don't actually find that very difficult. In fact, I would much rather buy a less fine cut of meat and cook it slowly with lots more flavour than going out and buying two very expensive steaks or a very expensive piece of rib or whatever. And meat eating is, we don't eat anything like as much meat as we used to. But when I do, I always go for the less fine cuts, and cook it for a long time.
So cooking it, meat for a long time, as you say, picking the less fine cuts. But you're saying you don't eat much meat. I mean, that must be cheaper as well. Are you eating a lot of more vegetarian meals?
Yeah, a lot more vegetables. And I grow vegetables. I know not everybody can do that. I totally get that. But if you buy vegetables when they're in season, then they're a lot cheaper. So, at this time of the year, you can go into a market and you can buy tomatoes for, really, really cheaply, and make a fantastic tomato sauce that you can either freeze down or put it in jars. And then I've got stacks on the shelves, which means, come the winter time, if I'm needing a tin of tomatoes, for example, I'll just get one of my jars or one of my containers out of the freezer. So and a lot of it is motivation, I think. I realise I'm at one end of the spectrum in that I want to use every morsel that I've grown, because if people grow their own, they know how much effort and energy has gone into it. So you're not going to throw anything away. Whereas, food is really quite cheap if you buy it at the right time.
So if you've got a growing family, particularly if you've got boys, how do you feed them properly on vegetarian meals? Because that's, a lot of people are concerned, genuinely concerned, that they're not going to be giving enough nutriments to growing kids without meat.
Yeah. Pasta's always a good one, isn't it? And I mean, there's proteins in pulses and beans and all those kind of things, and they're great to thick out, and cheese, yeah. And they're great for bulking up things like a vegetarian moussaka or something like that. You can use pea lentils or green lentils, and they bulk up. And my kids don't know that it's not mincemeat. It just looks the same, so you've got that sort of meaty feel without the meat.
Right. So I suppose you use a lot of spices and herbs and etc.
Herbs are brilliant. I think I would not be interested in cooking if it wasn't for herbs and spices, because they just give you that extra oomph where you need it.
And how do you save money around the house? Because I know I follow your Instagram feed. It's at Nancy Birtwhistle, isn't it? And you have some lovely pictures and lovely little videos with all sorts of tips on it. And I noticed you had something about bath salts the other day, and some lovely pictures of bottles of jars of bath salts, which you were saying you can make quite easily, for example.
Oh, yeah. If you were looking for, that was a really popular post, because I inadvertently sent for Epsom salts to have a play around with, because I experiment with natural cleaning methods and things. But instead of sending for a kilogram, because this was when we're very much into lockdown and you were not, you could only go out to the shop, and I thought, where am I going to get Epsom salts in this small town without shopping around? So I thought it's easy to go online. So instead of ordering a kilogram, I ordered 10 kilograms of Epsom salts. So I have this enormous tub of Epsom salts now. So I decided to colour it and perfume it, and it's made the most adorable gifts.
And you're saying that you do quite a lot. You make your own products, your own cleaning products. We've got an article on Money Magpie about that actually, which is very popular. So talk me through a few of these ways, because they are so much cheaper and, let's be honest, better for the environment.
I remember having a walk down there, and I've been doing this for a number of years. It's not something that I've just sort of jumped on the bandwagon. But it's like anything, the more you know, the more then there is to know. And I remember walking down the cleaning aisle in the supermarket and looking at the backs of detergents, and they're all pretty much the same, unless you go for the expensive eco-friendly brands. But they all have harmful chemicals, unfortunately. And so I thought, there has to be a better way. There has to be a better way that works, and that's not as expensive. I mean, we know that there are some really good eco-friendly products, but as a young wife and mother, I know that I couldn't have afforded to pay 4 times the price for my detergents and what have you. So I thought, right, I'm going to challenge myself to come up with alternatives that are less than or equal to supermarket owned brands in price. For example, limescale remover. Rather than buy a plastic packaged bottle of spray stuff, I invested in a big bag of citric acid. It's I think a 5 kilogram bag, and I just use 50 grams of that, dissolve it in 50 mils of hot water, so you've got a clear liquid, put it in a spray bottle, and that will sort out all of your limescale problems.
Will it? Because I use, I mean, I'm going to say the brand. I use Viacal, and I'm told by cleaners and others, oh no, that's bad. That's bad for the taps. It's actually, in hotels they've banned it apparently because it actually corrodes it. So goodness knows what kind of chemicals are in that. So you're saying that citric acid in hot water will actually do the job just as well?
Absolutely. For example, I now don't use oven cleaner. That is foul stuff.
That really is evil, isn't it? Yeah, you have to open the windows and wear rubber gloves and all sorts of stuff to use that thing.
Yeah, it's awful stuff. And so I clean the oven now with just bicarbonate of soda and
Really?
wire wool. And
Oh, interesting. Because you do hear bicarb of soda in an awful lot of homemade cleaning products. It seems to be bicarb of soda, lemon juice, and vinegar. Those seem to be the main ones. But now
yeah,
citric
not
acid, you're saying.
together,
Mm.
not together.
No.
Um, I can remember thinking that lemon juice and bicarbonate of soda together, because they fizz. Oh, look at this. This is fantastic. All that's actually happening is a chemical reaction, because and you're just getting off carbon dioxide, and what you're left with is a fairly inert salt. Any cleaning properties from the acid in your lemon or the alkaline in your bicarb is being destroyed, or they're cancelling each other out, put it that way, but each on their own. So the citric acid in a lemon will tackle your lime scale problems, for example, because that's alkaline, and the bicarbonate of soda will tackle the acidic tannins in your teapot and in your coffee mugs and things like that. So it's really interesting stuff. But the oven, I even surprised myself at how good it was, because all what I'd start with is a tray of boiling water in the oven, put the oven on to 100 degrees just for maybe 10 minutes, turn it off, leave that steamy oven for about half an hour, and then take it out. And the baked on deposits have softened. And then you can go around with your bicarbonate of soda paste, leave that on for 20 minutes, and then just use wire wool to clean it off.
Can you get big tubs of bicarb of soda? Because usually, I mean, it's usually in the cooking thing, and you have this little tiny pot of bicarbonate of soda, but that's not going to last very long if you're using it for the kitchen and bathroom as well.
That's right, and it's an expensive way to buy it as well. I mean, again, my cleaning shelf now is big tubs of things. So I buy bicarbonate of soda in a 5 kilogram tub. I buy surgical spirit in a big thing. My citric acid, uh, and decant them into little pots or little bottles. and vinegar, that I buy white vinegar in 5-litre bottles.
So this is all basically going to cost you pennies per time, rather than spraying with this expensive stuff. Because as you've mentioned, I've been up and down those aisles in the supermarket, and it's almost like perfume. I think, with perfume, it's all about the marketing, and it seems to be that with these cleaning products, you've got cleaning products for your taps, cleaning products for your kitchen floor. I mean, it's a ridiculous thing, and also they're full of horrible chemicals. So doing what you're doing, you can spend really just pennies for your cleaning, and you're not harming yourself or the environment.
And I was well and truly sucked in to the marketing. And I used to love to browse, particularly fabric conditioners. I was a stickler for fabric conditioners, and I used to ring the changes with the, warm glow of winter spice or the summer blossom perfumes and all this sort of thing. I used to love them until I would challenge anybody to have a read of the back of the bottle, to see what's in there, and to have a look at the black mold in the fabric conditioner compartment of your washing machine. Because once you've got rid of all of those detergents, my washing machine doesn't get moldy anymore. It doesn't clog up anymore. And it used to be quite a cleaning job, did my washing machine. And it was because of the fabric conditioners and the detergents I was using.
Oh, that's really good. And you've got all sorts of other clever little hacks, I know, because I saw on your Instagram that you were putting a bit of washing up liquid on your glasses to stop them steaming up when you wear a face mask. That's clever. So that really works.
Well, I've done that for years as well. I've smeared, because when I was first married back in 1970, whatever, our windows used to run with condensation in the winter because the house was so cold. And I used to smear the windows on the inside with just a drop of washing up liquid. And I still do the bathroom mirror sometimes, if it steams up and you can't see through it. And same with glasses. If you want to go out, it wasn't so much when we had to wear masks. It was more going out in the winter time or walking into a warm room when you've come from outside and they immediately steam up. And I use eco-friendly washing up liquid, which hasn't got any harmful chemicals either. So, because I know some people have said, oh, my optician said I've not got to use this because it's harmful for the coatings on the lens. So if people are worried about that sort of thing, obviously you're not going to do it. But I've done it for years.
Yeah, it hasn't harmed you. Now, you've got a new book out, I know, or it's coming out. What's it going to be about? And when is it out?
Right, right. This book is called Clean and Green. Whatever cleaning job you've got, it'll be in this book. I promise you. So whether you want a floor cleaner, dishwasher cleaner, detergents, there's a little bit of stuff about pesticides and insecticides outside, all using natural things. It's a bumper little book, and I'm really excited about it.
I bet. When is it out?
Due to be out in January.
Right. Okay. Ready for the spring cleans, I would imagine.
And people seem to be really interested in switching. I think if it's made easy and it's not, it's costing you the same or less than what you're spending now, and it works, people will do it.
Yeah, well, I agree because, as I say, we've got this article on Money Magpie about how to make your own cleaning products. We've also got one on how to make your own cosmetics and because of course you can make your own creams and everything. And those are both very popular articles because I think, increasingly we're thinking, hang on a sec, what's in this stuff? And you look at the ingredients, think, I do not want that up my nostrils or, on my skin or anything like that. And so that, as well as wanting to be greener and also wanting to cut down on the amount you spend at the supermarket, that's what made people a lot more interested in this kind of thing.
I think so, and I mean it's never been as topical as it is at the minute, and I think I for one I'm really worried. Not for me, it's not going to affect me. It's probably not even going to affect my children, but my grandchildren. When I look at their little faces, and I just think, what at least they'll be able to say, well, my granny was onto this, and she did her very best to try and alter things. And it's not about being a sort of eco warrior. And there's so many of us saying we've got to do something, and it's about trying to actually do something.
What was the most? Let's finish off with your most challenging item to clean that you came up with a solution for.
Well, a lady messaged me because I'd been doing a little video about removing blood stains,
Mm.
off anything really, an item of clothing or bedding or anything like that. And obviously, salt to soak in cold water. Don't try and wash your laundry if it's got blood in it because it will fix it. So you
Hmm.
start with a cold soak and what have you. Anyway, this lady messaged me and she said, I really don't know, I'm a bit embarrassed about this, but she said, I've had an operation on my leg. And she said, I had a dressing on this leg and it's leaked onto the mattress of the bed, and the mattress is brand new. So she said, what on earth should I do? And I thought, well, crikey, I don't know. You can't soak a mattress in cold water. So what do we do? So I suggested she made up a really, really strong solution of salt, pour over boiling water until it dissolves, and then let that go completely cold, and then use that really strong salty water to just dab on this stain. And I thought, well, I don't actually know whether this will work. And anyway, she messaged me back and she said, this is
So
fantastic.
just a very strong salt water solution, basically.
Yes, but cold. It must, obviously you don't want anything hot, so you've got to use boiling water to dissolve your salt,
Hmm.
but then let that go completely cold, and then use that to literally dab at the stain, working from the outside and move inwards with it. And so, even though I haven't used that one myself, it was just sort of thinking outside the box and taking the salt water soak to the stain rather than the stain to the salt water soak. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Nancy. Really good of you to join us. And I know you're busy. I can hear, the phone ringing. That's probably your agent asking you for yet another a gig to do. um, it was really good talking to you. And if anybody would like to keep up to date with what Nancy's up to, you can check out her website, nancybirtwhistle.co.uk, and also follow her on Instagram at Nancy Birtwhistle, which I do. And lovely, lovely pictures and videos. Thank you for those, Nancy. And now our own Money Magpie readers and listeners have a wealth of tips and tricks for saving money around the home too. And here's what they've told us.
Hi, my name's Richard. I'm from Sheffield. I live in Sheffield and I work in video production. When it comes to being cost effective, I've started buying more frozen vegetables and vegetables that you can get preserved in jars, so in sunflower oil or olive oil, such as like roasted red peppers, olives, sun-dried tomatoes, things like that. Because the problem I have when I buy fresh food is that I'll make one meal, but then 4 or 5 days later, when I come back to make something else, they've started to go off, and I end up binning them. So it's quite easy to waste things when you're buying in bulk if you're not organized and planning your meals. So yeah, I've found that buying frozen vegetables that obviously don't go off, a very cost effective way, and still obviously very nutritious. Around the house, saving money, obviously changing my energy supplier where necessary, keeping on top of prices out there, and not just accepting what you get through as a bill, and making sure that you're proactive and checking sites like USwitch for better deals. And I've found charity shops. I'm absolutely loving charity shops at the moment. Just going and having a browse and seeing what's there. Recently, I picked up a set of really nice glasses, wine glasses and gin glasses from a charity shop that were about, I don't know, it was about £1 for a set of four, and they're absolutely brilliant. So charity shops are brilliant for saving. I suppose other ways of saving money around the house is making sure that you're installing LED light bulbs as opposed to the old-fashioned expensive bulbs that are cheap to buy but cost a lot more in your energy bills. Looking at when you're buying new technology, looking at their energy rating.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about those charity shops. Nancy, are you a fan of charity shops? Because I certainly am. I love a rummage around there.
I love a charity shop, yes, and I love. There's something very satisfying about picking up a
Oh,
bargain.
yes.
I can remember picking up a little green jug, and it was like, I don't know, 50p or whatever, and it's a sort of lime green, and I love this jug. It's great for. I put flowers in it. I use it for. It's just beautiful, and I don't think it would have given me any more pleasure had it been really expensive. I love the fact that it was a bargain.
Well, I don't know about you, but if somebody says to you, "Oh, I really like your dress," if it's been a bargain, there was one I got from Oxfam for a fiver a while ago, and each time people would say, "Oh, I like your dress," I go, £5, Oxfam, brilliant! I'm so impressed. But if I have something that was actually quite expensive and somebody says like it, you go, oh, "Thanks so much." Slightly embarrassed. I'm just really impressed with myself at getting something really cheap. I have to tell everyone.
I think there's something about that, because if you've spent a lot of money on something and somebody compliments, like you say, it's a tad embarrassing, because you think maybe you know. But if it was a bargain, you want to spread the word. So yeah, it's a funny one, is that one? I'm talking. It just made it listening to that caller that was saying about you know trying to be economical with fuel and that sort of thing. One thing I still do and try to always do is, if you've got the oven on, say with a casserole in it, and you're going to do veg to go alongside, rather than put your hob on, I put maybe carrots in a little casserole or a bowl, just with a lid on, with just 2 tablespoons of water, and put them in the oven with the casserole, and even a little bowl of frozen peas or something. So that you're not having to use the hob as well as your oven. You can cook everything in the oven.
Brilliant. And I remember my mum she'd do a roast and she would always do some pies, or, well, we'd often have rice pudding there, and, she'd make sure she did all the puddings as well at the same time.
And I think cookery programs are also you often see them put something in the oven and then they'll go over to the hob and start doing something else. And I'm thinking, why aren't you using your oven for everything? Because that's on and you're using the electricity. And it's not just the cost, is it? It's also, we're using up resources.
Exactly. Oh, well, that's fantastic. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you for all those amazing tips. And that's your lot from us today. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram. And our handle is, of course, at MoneyMagpie. And if you've got a story you'd like us to feature, or you have a burning question, head over to the podcast thread on our message boards. In fact, put a question on any of the message boards, and not only will we answer it, but it might be picked for the next podcast. We're interested in any of your fab money tips. Today's episode was presented by me, Jasmine Birtles, and was produced by John Offord. The music was composed for Money Magpie by Thomas Hewitt Jones.